Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Professional's Pulse. Well, as you all know, I am Farida Musaddi, the co founder and CEO of Al Fateh Technologies Dubai. Al Fateh is a tech consultancy based in UAE, and we are committed to empowering businesses with cutting edge IT solutions. We specialize in addressing complex IT requirements across diverse industries. Our expertise spans AI, analytics, cybersecurity, automation, data centers, networking, and beyond, making us your go to partner for tackling the most challenging technology needs. Whether it's implementing smart city solutions, optimizing IT assets, or integrating advanced digital transformation strategies, we deliver innovative, scalable, and result driven solutions tailored to your goal. At Alphatech, we believe that every IT problem has a solution and we are here to provide it. Well, in today's fast paced digital landscape, businesses are constantly seeking ways to optimize their operations and drive sustainable growth. This week on the Professionals Pulse, we are thrilled to welcome Ms. Michelle Sherry, an expert in strategic process management and SaaS solutions. Together, we'll explore how businesses can streamline their processes, harness the power of SaaS technologies, and implement strategies that accelerate growth while staying agile in a competitive market. Get ready for an insightful discussion filled with actionable takeaways to help you transform your approach to business efficiency and innovation. So let me welcome today our guest, Miss Michelle Sherry. Michelle, thank you so much, and we welcome you on the Professionals Pulse.
Thank you so much, Farida. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me on the show.
Well, for everyone, Michelle is a seasoned business leader and process optimization expert with over 2 decades of international experience across EMEA and the United States. As the founder and CEO of Optima Consulting, a boutique Scandinavian management consultancy which is based in Dubai, she specializes in helping medium to large companies improve their performance, efficiency, and sustainability. Michelle's expertise spans business process management, organizational communication, and project management with a focus on utilizing technology and SaaS solutions to address complex business challenges. Her distinctive approach blends strategic insight with practical implementation, making her an invaluable asset for companies aiming to accelerate growth and streamline operations in today's fast paced digital landscape. Once again, Michelle, it's great to have you here with us on this Saturday morning on the Professionals Pulse.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. So, to begin with, how do these, SaaS solutions enhance the process management for companies of different sizes?
Excuse me. Well, as you know, software which was initially all used as program based solutions have now started to more or less all become software as a service, SaaS solutions, right? Which
Correct.
means that it allows the users to connect to use cloud based apps. And there are different advantages to that. Of course, for the smaller businesses, it means that they have access to enterprise level solutions. They can purchase as you go on basis. I mean, as a pay on you go basis. It's too
Yeah,
early
yeah.
in the morning. And it gives them the capabilities of deeper analysis and working without a heavy upfront investment. So it's
Correct.
a huge benefit for the smaller to the medium sized companies. For the larger companies, of course, enterprises, it provides complex, comprehensive analysis and real time collaborations with geographical teams.
Okay.
So in that way, it's quite a agile way of working, and it provides so much enhanced capabilities to the different sizes of the organizations, and
Okay.
it improves the decision making and the complex workflows. But I will say that there are also negative sides of SaaS that you need to consider, right? And there was a whole number of them, and recently was also published by the Forbes Technology Council. But I mean, they're quite known to people, right, who have been looking into all these solutions. One of the main things I would say is that jumps out for me is, as a startup or as a smaller company, right? You, it's very easy to fall into the trap of having multiple cloud apps, all the
True.
SaaS different solutions for sales, for accounting, for all the different elements within business.
Correct.
And you end up paying lots of
Much
different,
more.
because there's always like best in class app for CRM, for
Correct.
bookkeeping, for all the different aspects, right? So
Absolutely.
there are also the bigger solutions which contain all the different elements. And I would always say, if it's possible, even as a smaller business, you need to consider that as an option upfront before you start purchasing all these subscriptions or um, apps,
Correct.
not apps, SaaS services. Sorry. So that is a thing. That's an element that I think most smaller companies get trapped into. And then once you've started building on these apps, it's difficult to consolidate.
True.
Even as you grow and you become a bigger company, you have to transfer a lot of data. There's data migrational issues that you need to consider, and
Absolutely.
how you operate this while running the business, because you can't stop day-to-day activity, right, while you're
True.
migrating and optimizing. So there's a lot of elements in that that need to be considered on a later scale. And also the safety of your data. Um, Many companies automatically rely on the security, data security of all these SaaS solutions. And I will say bigger solutions like, just as an example, Salesforce, right?
Mm-hmm.
That will, of course, incorporate a big amount of thinking and actionable uh, configuration to make sure that the data is secure. But still, as any company using any kind of solution, you should consider what and how the secure data is managed in the operations in the SaaS solution. Um, there are lots of other uh, negative aspects which need to, not negative aspects, but you need to consider them
Concern. Areas of
up.
concern.
Yeah, make
Yeah.
sure that it's all thought through before you start adding. Depends also on the kind of company, right? what
True.
what services do you provide? Is it simple products or is it financial services? That should have a heavy consideration as to what you use and how you use it.
True.
Enhanced risk of credit, I can't even say it, credit, no, credential theft. It's a big word for Saturday morning. Cybercrime that gains access to the big Office solution or Google Suite.
True.
Again, they have integrated security features, but still anything is penetrable, and it depends on what and how you will manage your own data. And there's also industry standards, of course, that need to be followed with credit card details and so on. So that's already something that's considered. But especially for the smaller to the medium sized companies, it's something that's very important to think through, right? Also, performance over time, depending on what SaaS solution that you've got integrated into your business platform, you know, it depends on what solution it is and how their software updates are constantly enhanced and what their priorities are, which
True.
direction they're going. That's another thing. And I would say, what was the other solution? I was thinking of something else as well. Also, of course, you need to stay ahead of the curve. And some of these SaaS solutions, they're quite standardized and they're maybe going in a different direction. That also brings it to customization. This I've seen so many things, right? You see that it's possible to integrate to different other solutions, and it can be, but sometimes that's very limited integration options. Other times you need a developer to bring in the integration part and work on the APIs and such. And depending on what kind of a company it is, they might not have that option.
True.
So there are lots of elements to think through to make sure that that you've got the correct solution and you're using it in the correct way. I would say.
Absolutely.
What do
But
you
then,
think on? I mean, you've seen lots of organizations using in your business, right? And I'm sure you have experienced so many cases where many of these points come up again and again.
and yes, I completely agree with you, because sometimes, as you first of all mentioned, many a times when companies start using so many different SaaS solutions, they end up paying more,
Mm,
because ultimately, there's a lot of data which is going in, and you need to uh, there's so many different things, and there's data migration from one to the other, so it's
mm,
like a trap that you keep going into. And secondly, yes, there are certain aspects of security that have to be taken care of. There is, of course, the country regulations that one has to be
yes.
completely aware of. There's cross country data transfer that
Mm,
also might impose a problem sometimes, because the data might be hosted on a completely different location. So
exactly.
one needs to be very clear with the data regulations of that particular country as well before, especially when it is external data or customer data that you are dealing with. So I think these points are very much important when considering the correct or the best kind of SaaS solutions.
Mm.
So, any particular, SaaS solutions that you feel in today's day are, really good, or have are being used by a lot of people, or as you were saying, one company which is offering you the complete bouquet of SaaS services under one subscription. Do we have such models existing today?
I would say yes. I mean, it again, it depends on the industry and what services or products you provide, but there's a whole variety. And, as all the new AI solutions, there are new services provided or integration options every single day. It's so difficult to keep up, right? And I'd say for corporate level, again, depending on the solutions, I love Salesforce. If you
Okay.
use it correctly, if it's thought through, if it's like any system, you have to, optimization and improvement is a continuous cycle. I've
True.
seen so often companies set up the solution and they're running with the same layout, the same workflows 10 years later. Of course, the market has changed and the customer has organically evolved, and that
Absolutely.
needs to be considered ongoingly in how you're operating. And if you don't, you're going to end up in the stone age of technology, and you're going to lose customers because you're always going to be running behind, or you're not going
True.
to be visible and transparently providing what services you need. But it's not only on the client side, it's also internally with your
Internal.
employees. I
Absolutely.
have come into organizations which have, like I said before, they've been set up 10, 20 years ago. I mean, very, very simplistically, somebody's come in, integrated or configured the system, and walked away. And the employees are using the system as it is, but of course it's not optimal to what they need and how they operate, right?
True.
So they create workarounds, and these workarounds create inefficiencies in, this is known to these employees only, and when they leave, the others have to relearn or invent their own systems to work around the problems. And it creates delivery delays, it creates frustrations. I've mentioned solutions where employees have been very unhappy even talking about it, because it creates a big problem in their daily work. And it's not the task at hand, it's the system that doesn't support the task. It
True.
actually works against it. And that's where you end up with a negative spiral in employees, which also affects the client side. But yeah, it becomes a
I
negative
agree with
spiral
this.
that, you lose customers, you lose credibility, you lose anything that was valuable that you're providing your clients, even though you're still valuable, but you're
Yes.
not actually able to do that. And I
And it,
think
I think,
that's
affects the overall functioning of the entire organization, because things
exactly.
go haywire, the management is not able to pull out the correct kind of data, so
Hmm.
that affects the overall working even internally.
Yes, yes. And it's a shame because it might be a very great product or service or company, but it also, like I said, it creates this negative atmosphere within the organization, and teams start to have conflicts.
True.
Delivery teams that need to be able to speak to sales teams, which is quite vital. And I've seen where it doesn't work and they're almost fighting each other, which it shouldn't be like that, right? It needs to be that they're helping each other
True.
and they're getting what they need from each other to succeed. And then not only is the company succeeding, but the employees are succeeding, and it can create a much happier atmosphere, which is what makes me upset. And I'm so passionate about making sure that the technology, whatever the technology is, it needs to work for the human. It needs to enhance any human platform capability operations. It's not supposed to replace. And I know that we have lots of points to go through, and maybe I'm skipping through it, but
Yeah.
I hear this all the time, right? Especially from the medium size and also the smaller. People are scared of technology. Some people are afraid that it's going to replace them.
Replace.
That's
Yes.
the common thought, right? And it's also the same when a consultant of any kind goes into an organization and tries to improve the system. If you're not clear about why and how you're going to help them, they automatically assume they're going to be replaced if they're too visible. So they
True.
hide. And now I'm jumping around everything as well.
Mm, I get what you're saying. Yes, I completely agree. And I am a firm believer that AI, I mean, technology is not here to replace humans, but it is how we utilize it efficiently to streamline our work and to streamline our processes.
it's
So,
supposed to make your life better and easier and
yes,
faster. Maybe not faster,
exactly.
but that you can do all the repetitive, boring tasks faster and you can get to the good, juicy stuff,
True. True. I
right?
completely agree. Completely
Yeah.
agree. So,
So
how can a business kind of identify as to which processes need to be optimized first in order to maximize their growth? I think this would be very relevant to small
Mm.
scale and medium scale businesses where
Or
they
even
want
for
to
larger
start.
scale.
Yeah, those who have not
Sorry.
yet started using this. So how would they know, like step by step, what to optimize first?
Well, uh, I always recommend, or we recommend, to do a 360 diagnostics.
Okay.
Um, that is especially if, and this goes for any company level, a smaller, medium, corporate level as well. If there has been no improvement, optimization, reviews, or any kind of integration done for a while, that is the first step I would take to look into all the different aspects. It depends on, are we talking sales, delivery, and the whole team? I don't like to focus on only one department or team. Of course, that can be necessary at times, but you always need to think of it in a more holistic, rounded approach. Who are these teams going to need to speak to? How are they all? How are they all connected, and what do they need from each other to improve their elements, or their element is the wrong word, their part of the job. And the 360 review that we do looks into all these different areas: how the leadership is working, is it the communication, technology, tech stack, the workflow, the customer side, the internal side. There's all these that need to be looked at. And then you can see where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are. And with the weaknesses, you then go in deeper and analyze the workflows, the issues,
Okay.
communication, especially with the wherever the operational teams are having issues, an open dialogue, and to create foster a culture where they're able to speak without being penalized in any way,
True.
or suffer any kind of consequences. They need to tell the consultancy organization or the management team in the organization or the company what these issues are, because they're the only people who actually relevantly know the nitty gritty parts, right? And
True.
then you can deep dive further, and there needs to be workflows investigated. Many times also, especially with the smaller companies or the medium size, they don't have any specifically clear idea of who the target audience actually is, the different personas. There can be one audience, or target customer, but there can be different scenarios as to how they come to you and what they need. That needs to be considered also. So I would say, looking into this whole 360 view and then going deeper and deeper and deeper, you will know, is it the bookkeeping side of things that we're missing? Is it customer relationship management? Is it communication internally that's a problem, or externally? And then you can figure out what solution you need to actually improve or implement, integrate, how it needs to be done. But investigation is the first step, and
Absolutely.
clear communication to finding that out. And that goes also for the corporate level. You'd be surprised how, like I said initially, they've set up the solution, they've walked away from it, and it's not really happening. Nothing is happening. I would
Correct.
also say there's a big, and this is not only because we're a consultancy, but I would say, even if it's got nothing to do with my own company, my own consultancy, there's a big difference in saying we have an internal improvement team versus some outside organization, consultancy, or an expert even in their field, that comes into the organization. Because number one thing that I see so many times is this internal improvement person, team, whatever it may be, have zero mandate to actually improve the systems that need to be improved.
Correct.
They need the access, they need the mandate, and often, it's they would operate in this team. You need the organization to be to go through the changes what needs to happen for any improvement. And not a small, I don't mean a small, but a team member or a team within the organization cannot handle. Maybe sometimes depends again what sort of an organization it is, hierarchy. In I'm Danish. In Scandinavia, the hierarchy is usually quite flat, so
Correct.
you have more of a say even as an operational person, and you have more power to enforce or to work through implementing changes, where in classic larger corporations or internationally in general, it's not always the case, and
I
it's
agree.
necessary to have external parties come in and say, completely out of the political agenda,
Yeah, and an unbiased view.
completely unbiased view, and they can, and also employees might be more open to
Open
speaking
towards it.
frankly
True.
to them than to your own boss, because you don't want any kind of repercussions. So again, it deep dive. You have to investigate what's working, what's not working, how is it not working, what systems you need, completely objectively as possible, and then you work deeper to finding out how it's going to be optimal. And that goes with anything. It doesn't have to be SaaS. Any kind of
Same.
process,
True.
it's the same investigation.
True.
So yes, there are. Yeah, I would say that's the most difficult part to do. And once you've done it, this doesn't stop. You have to constantly assess.
Absolutely.
You know,
I think that's really important.
And there
Yes.
needs to be a system in place where employees can collect their thoughts or
The
issues, and it's
suggestions,
actually fed
feedbacks. Yes.
through and say, okay, this was working before, but now the market has changed. These conditions are different. We have to consider how we're going to make it better.
True.
And sometimes you can even get a better system, even if something is working. If there's an idea that sparks from a customer that you're listening to, or internally, excuse me, that should also be fed into the overall um, recursive improvement cycle.
True.
And
True.
that is the biggest thing that I see. People forget, once you've improved something, it's not going to sustain your operations or help you get successful in the future if you're not actually working.
Always improvising and always taking that relevant feedback. Agree.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yes.
So
So we have. Yeah, you were saying something. Sorry.
no, no, no. Yeah, you go on.
No, I have seen that we have a question by someone who from LinkedIn, and they say, "How much do you think the ecosystem, like Microsoft, in
Mm.
case of dynamic CRM implementation, matter to a client? And do they prefer CRM on the basis of primarily access to ecosystem or features more?"
Well, I think it matters substantially, whatever kind of organization it is. That's the one thing that frustrates me when I'm speaking as a client myself. If whatever business it is has no idea, and I don't want to specifically say this, but in the Middle East, there is this issue that then they either don't have a proper CRM, they're running on spreadsheets. And I've been approached several times by different employees in the same organization asking me the same questions again and again. Excuse me. That should not happen at all if you have any kind of decent CRM. And, it's CRM shows the customer that they matter. That's
True.
the most important thing, I would say. And this is also evolving, right? The customer is having more and more buying power and also power to select. The competition in the market is fierce. It's one of the main things that I look at as a person. How are they managing my information? Do they know who I am? Of course, a big corporation can't distinguish between clients to a certain degree, but if you have a proper CRM and you're using it in the correct, adequate way, you can make the customer feel special. And every customer wants to feel special, right? They want to know that you have their interest at heart and you're speaking to them. These are the
Correct.
companies that I believe are going to succeed in the future because the competition is pushing the companies to improve these things more and more. And if
Yes.
you don't have the proper organic ecosystem of customer relationship management, you're not going to hold on. You're not going to keep these customers. They're going to go elsewhere. I don't know if I answered the question completely. Otherwise, you have to remind me what was
Yeah.
asked specifically.
No, I think that was the crux of the question. I hope the question has been answered. If anything, please feel free to put in your questions even during the session. So,
Yeah.
my next question would be, what type of processes, are the best candidates for such kind of SaaS integration? Yes, we discussed the investigation part,
Mm,
and how the company needs to evaluate which processes need to be first looked into, and to be,
mm.
so that they know where to start from. But as per your experience, which are the best one in any organization that are best implemented with SaaS solutions?
I would say it has to be anything that's a repetitive, intensive process.
Okay.
And that would be HR onboarding, inventory management, finance reporting, CRM, of
Correct.
course.
We just
And
talked about that.
yeah, and these are repetitive tasks that shouldn't have to be managed by a person
Okay.
specifically and can be 100% more or less processed automatically. Also, data heavy, like I said, finance reporting, dashboard reports, analytics, and such. That is very easy to maintain, always updated
True.
by systems that
Correct.
are built for it, right?
And we have some very fantastic solutions for that. I think even
Amazing. I mean,
yes,
there are more and
dashboard.
more coming out every day. And again, make sure that it's reviewed what you need, how you need it, and follow through on setting it up properly from the beginning.
Correct.
Often, companies will set up whatever they need in a very fast and dirty way, right? And I learned this a while ago in another company I work for, where it was constantly reminded dirty data in will be dirty data out.
I
That's
agree.
the main succinct part I would take out of that. If you want real information, real time, and you want the real numbers, you have to put the correct information
Data. Correct.
in the correct way. And
Yes.
that's the only way you're going to know what you're actually really making, how you're going to improve, and how you're going to advance.
True.
The analysis of that is the only way you can find out. So I would say make sure that all this data that is, like again, finance has been set up properly.
Yeah.
That's the most important. And CRM, I would also say, is always, even as a small company, even as a very startup, don't use spreadsheets. Don't use spreadsheets. Don't use spreadsheets because it's going to be okay. As a very, very early days, yes, you can, and you can easily convert a spreadsheet into a CRM,
Correct.
whatever solution that you might go for, but make sure that it's clean data, it's properly set up. You've got the
True.
names, you've got the businesses, you've got all that information that you need. But even as an early company, a small startup, I don't understand why would you not start with a CRM? There are so many solutions out there that are cheap, that are free, that you can use, which are possible to, scale into a larger scale operations. And I think at one point you were asking me, do we have actual good solutions? And I said Salesforce. I would say Salesforce is for the big, large corporate level company.
Yes.
But for the small startups, there are Project Management Monday, Basecamp. There are so many tools out there. Asana. One thing that I really like that I recommend for smaller companies would be Zoho CRM or
Yes.
Zoho, not just CRM, but you can start with any part of the smaller version of Soho, the
Correct.
books, CRM, and so on. And you
Yes.
can then later on, when you've reached a certain level, upgrade that to Zoho One, which has the full suite
Full.
of all the
Yeah.
different. And I'm not promoting Zoho as any kind of affiliate in any way, but
Yes.
and
I've
like that,
seen their solutions. Yes. They
it's
give you a complete.
easy.
Yes.
And then when you get to a certain level, you can either use the enterprise version of that solution,
True.
or you can easily move it. And I say easily with a grain of salt because you still, as you know, need migration plans, data
Migration.
across the whole deal is a bigger project. But once you have clean data, it's still easier to transfer it to a
Migrate.
different
Correct.
solution,
Correct.
right? So I would always encourage any small company that has even 10 clients, use CRM. Also, it's easier to have marketing and sales, promotion, social media integrated. And that's also still possible to go a long distance for free.
True. That's true.
So I don't understand why. Well, I do understand knowledge is power, right? And many of these smaller companies, they don't have time to investigate. They don't have time to go out there and look into the different solutions that might be feasible for them. But there's lots of knowledge out there you can search for, or consultants, micro consultants, I would even say, and AI solutions. You can use AI bots. That is the biggest advantage for the smaller micro companies. One of the things I feel very close to my heart is supporting female entrepreneurs, and micro startups. And there are lots of these in the Middle East because it's
True.
as you know, UAE promotes startup companies and is heavily promoting women as well to support them in business capabilities. And they have many of these. They're different kind of companies, but I see many of them, they don't know how to run the business side of things. They might be very good at whatever they do, whatever service they provide, products, amazing products, so many amazing products that I'm seeing coming out. And they can easily, they just have to sometimes get over the fear of the technology side of it. They have to just launch into the bots, ChatGPT, which is the main easy issue, not easy issue, easy solution
Tool.
that you
Yes.
can use. And of course, you need to be a little bit wary because not everything that comes out of it is 100% accurate.
Yes.
And you can't trust blindly research because I know that the manufacturers sometimes research.
Correct.
And you can do your own analysis, but
Yes.
if you use it correctly, You can use it easily for social media, for sales, for any kind of business activity.
I agree. Yes.
It's a huge
True.
step forward for these
Yes.
smaller businesses and also
Yes.
for the middle to large corporates. It's
It
very
reduces your
beneficial.
dependability on a lot many factors.
Mm,
So yes, you can manage
it's
things.
amazing. You just
Yeah.
have to
Yes.
use it in the correct way, like
Correct way.
anything. My grandfather used to say, you can complete any job easily if you use the right tool. I
True.
will never forget that. And he was, of course, talking about hammers and screwdrivers. He was a carpenter, another carpenter, but he worked with that a lot. And I remember he bought me this when I was young. My first. Now we're completely moving in a different direction, but he bought me this toolbox that had very, very good quality screwdrivers that could do different, the way they functioned, not the classic ones you have to, but you could do like a movement and it would just automatically go faster. And it stuck in my brain that anything, and that goes for your entire life, for any, as a mother, as a partner, as a business person in business, if you use the right tool in the right way, it will go faster, it will go easier, and it will help you a lot more than the standard
True.
configurability or the standard tool, right? So
And if you have the tools, then why not? They are
exactly,
out there for everyone to use. Then why do we
exactly.
keep ourselves away from it?
It's,
So
I think it's only the
it's only
fear
the
of the unknown, the fear that you might not understand it. I heard that many times, that people are scared of trying to even play around with, for example, ChatGPT, because they don't know how to use it. They don't. The only way you learn is by investigating, by researching, by
correct.
trying. And
True.
like I tell my children, mistakes is gold. It's like a golden nugget for your future success.
True.
You cannot succeed without mistakes. You cannot
True.
succeed without trying and falling and trying, and that's the only way you move forward. So why
Correct.
not try?
True. That's true.
Yeah.
So
Sorry if I'm
um,
wearing.
no, I mean, these are wonderful insights. I quite agree. And in fact, I wanted to highlight this one point which you made even earlier.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is that organizations, they invest a lot and they come up with these fantastic tools. But then when it comes down to implementation, if the employees who are actually going to use that particular technology or the tool, if they are not trained properly, as you
Mm,
mentioned, they find a way around it and
yeah.
they start doing
Yes.
things their way, which are easy for them, convenient for them. Okay,
Yeah.
but then because there is no investigation afterwards,
Mm,
what happens is that things just keep continuing in a certain way forward.
yeah.
And suddenly, when the employee leaves the organization or when there is a situation that arises, that is when the realization comes in that or that tool which was there was not
Mm,
used optimally.
mm,
And I think that was one of the factors. Two main reasons that I can pull out is number one, the training. Maybe there was a lack of training. Maybe things were implemented in a very fast way,
yeah.
and secondly, of course, there was no proper uh, feedback or the entire process of
Mm,
investigating or taking feedback from the employees whether they are actually using that tool or not.
yeah.
So even if organizations are providing these technology and these tools, how much of it is actually used by the people down there, I think that is also one of
Yes.
the reasons that organizations need to take care of.
Involving the correct stakeholders or the correct amount of stakeholders, because you
Yes,
cannot have, for example, a massive organization where you only have a small percentage of the necessary stakeholders. They will not highlight all the different aspects that's needed, or
true.
like you say, exactly, they don't involve the right stakeholders at all. And management has come up with, or a consultancy, if that may be the case, has come up with, this is the best way of working for you. And they're spoon feeding you um, this technology and the integration of it. Then, yes, number one, as you say, they haven't actually asked the right people what they need and how
True.
they need to work, right? But also, equally important is the training. I completely agree with that. You can implement the most diamond level of a solution in the best possible way. But if you don't train people properly, if you don't highlight the main definitions that are compatible with your company values and services solutions, then they're going to make up their own. People are going to
Correct.
make up their own if they don't understand something. And they might actually already have the right path process in front of them, but they don't know.
They don't know.
And then
Yes.
they are going to make a workaround. I have heard that so many times. Oh, this tool doesn't work how we like it, but we have a workaround around it, you know? And then also, as you say, maybe a year, months, whatever, they leave the organization. They have been known as the subject matter expert, not as an actual subject matter expert, but as the subject matter expert that knew the workaround to fix the problem that they didn't understand why was there in the first place, which is
Correct.
ridiculous. It's
I know.
waste of time, money, effort. Plus, this person has left. So the
Yes.
next person has to come up and reinvent the wheel as how are we going to fix this problem?
And they come up with their own ways then.
Yeah. And nobody feels that they have the time because this is also very organizational level, right? The management needs to ensure the organization knows, the employee knows that if something needs to be revised, you can take the time to revise. It doesn't mean you stop operations. It still means that maybe a team, a task force, whatever you might call it, looks at, so we always have this issue. How are we going to fix this issue? What is the issue? What have we been doing and what we would like to do to make it faster? And they need to also have some pathway to feed the information to the right party.
Correct.
So maybe it's a steering committee that runs every month, week, whatever it may be. Again, it depends on how fast some things need to be fixed. But I cannot believe that that doesn't happen in so many cases. And these people become subject matter experts on the workaround. I've seen
True.
that in corporates, not just medium or smaller size companies, corporate level.
I think it happens more in corporates.
Yes, but it happened. Yes, exactly. Because also, that's another thing that you just made me think of. Teams become siloed and the communication, it's very difficult. Excuse me for 1 second.
I think that's also because the levels increase, the hierarchy increases.
Yes,
So
exactly.
what's
It
happening
creates a
down there,
distance.
yeah, it's not
Even
monitored as it should be.
even between equal level teams, it can
Yes.
happen. And like I said before, sales don't think that the delivery teams are delivering properly. The delivery teams feel like the sales team is not providing the necessary information on time and efficiently or completely. And it affects the end delivery implementation. Customer is not happy. So
True.
but yes, it does happen quite often in
Yes.
corporate level. And yeah, you just, I would say management should make sure that there is a ongoing, either internal, fully mandated improvement team or
Absolutely.
consultants should be on, not standby, they should constantly help working with the teams, reviewing necessity to change
True.
and change. You know as well as I, change is so difficult to
Difficult,
implement, whether it's a
definitely.
small team or a big corporation. It's difficult because everybody is resistant to change as a, it's a safety blanket for most people. Change is the most difficult thing. But if you make sure that employees, staff, company, whatever people you're talking to know that you're changing to help them, to make their lives better, to make sure that they can deliver what they need to deliver in the easiest possible way and fastest way, and you show them how it's possible, then they're going to be willing to change. But change
Absolutely.
is a multifaceted and time consuming element, right? You have the initial freeze reaction, then you marinate the information, you explain, you discuss, you talk, you make sure that all the right parties are involved and they get a say, and you have to negotiate, you have to mediate, you have to investigate, and then there's the implementation, which then happens softly, and you have to continuously educate people.
Yes.
That's the only way I believe change can be implemented successfully. And that's
I
also, you can't
Yeah.
just think of the
Phase
best SaaS
wise.
solution, the best workflow, the best communication. You have to also help people change
Absolutely
and
true.
be willing to change. So, yeah, I'm sure that there's something you see so often in your work as well, and
I
it's
agree. I
not
agree.
easy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. In fact, as I was saying, change has to be brought along in phases. It cannot
Yes,
be, just one shot. So slowly, the employees have to be migrated from one system to another. Some of them would be flexible. Some of them might find it difficult. So I think it is a very, very important step for the management, to implement in such a way that the employees do not, they are not overwhelmed by the change. They accept
yes,
it in a gradual way. I think that's
exactly,
important.
exactly.
Because when the
And that,
resistance comes in, that's when people start avoiding those systems.
yes, yes, exactly. Time, of course, sometimes you don't have all the necessary time, but then you need to just
It has to be planned well.
communicate.
Yes.
Yeah, investigate, communicate, and sometimes also, if you come up with this is the solution, this is the best way forward, it doesn't mean that it is the best way.
True.
While you're implementing it, you need to test it. That's also one thing I don't see sometimes, where everything has been done up front, all the investigation, all the task force have been involved, all the right parties in the right way, and you've gone through it all. If you don't do the testing properly upfront before you launch it, and you have to be agile to changes on the fly. Again, depends on how fast the company is operating, what type of company, what type of solution, product, service. And sometimes you have to make a on the fly decision, and you have to be agile. And that still means you need to have the right parties involved from the beginning, and you
True.
need to have the mandate in this task force team, whatever you call it, to actually do that. And that has to be supported by management. So ultimately, I would say management and the culture is very critical to what the communication tone is in the company, and how you will implement any change or whatever solution that needs to come in is going to operate. So, yeah.
Correct. I agree.
Yeah.
So, how important do you think, is customization also in SaaS solutions? You have, of course, many of these off-the-shelf
Mm.
products and services, which are amazing, which are fantastic. But at the same time, how important is customization? Do you think it is required with every solution, or I think most of the companies can use what is right now available in the market?
I think the technology is moving in such a way that, you know, the different levels of customers have, the user journeys of these customers have been very well thought of when they're building the SaaS solutions and the platforms, and also even the integrational parts to them. So I think many of these SaaS solutions are very, very well thought of in aspect of what level of customization most companies need. Of course, there will always be some very industry specifics, and I would say these companies might have their own customized solutions, completely customized solutions, right? Which might be necessary for them. But most of these SaaS product solutions, they already take that level of customization into account.
Okay.
Also, sometimes too much can actually increase cost and level of complexity. That's two things you need to consider. Even if
True.
it's possible within the solution, you know, sometimes it's added costs and so on. You can get to the next level of customization. Also, it can, if you haven't thought through the process up front, it can create too much of complexity to something that might not be necessary. So you have
Absolutely.
to jump through hoops to get to the end solution or the end task. And it's not needed, maybe, where lean also comes in, right? I'm very big believer of remove all the additional noise, keep it as simple as possible to provide the most effective solution.
True.
So yeah, customization is not always the best thing. It needs to be considered why and how and what level you need. Do you really need that?
Correct.
Yeah. So
So, uh, the last question for the day: what trends do you see are kind of, shaping the future of these SaaS solutions and process management over the next 5 to 10 years?
I would say the most what's it called? The most visible trend that comes to my mind is that it's going to be more or less vertical SaaS solutions.
Okay.
So industry specific solutions are going to be, I believe, the way forward. Where, and you're already seeing, excuse me, we're already seeing that trend, where there's solutions based on service products, and they're very specific to also even what kind of products, whether it's the fashion industry and so on. And I think that's going to evolve more and more to the point where you might not have to even think about customization because it's already fully built for the most optimal customer journeys, and
Correct.
uh, also low code or no code, because more and more of course bigger companies and corporates have their own development teams or even outsourced development teams, but it needs to be more and more easy, I think, especially for the smaller to medium, but also for the bigger ones, to integrate or to adjust
Correct.
faster the solution without having to think about pages. I'm not a coder, but coding in general, especially when you're talking about integrating systems, that coding already needs to be as much as possible in place, because you
True.
can't spend, I don't know, weeks, months adjusting, fiddling, testing, and fine tuning, because this will happen. But the
Yes.
more nitty gritty coding is required, the more level of complexity of the integration, and
Indeed. Yes.
to adjust any kind of workflow without, you need to be able to do that without having to think about it. Also,
True.
sustainability, I think, needs to be a big key. And I think many of these organizations or many of these SaaS solutions are considering that it's becoming a bigger aspect of
Okay.
our, daily life. And I'm also a big believer in that. In anything that you do, sustainability. Don't buy a solution that's going to work for you if you know it's only going to work for the next year.
Correct.
Why would you even consider
Spend
spending
invest.
time,
Yeah.
effort, energy, and money on that? Buy something or invest in something, and that goes for
Remotely.
everything, I believe. We cannot afford to not think about that aspect. Yeah.
True. That's true. That's true. I think that's
Oh,
hello. I'm so sorry. I think I just went offline. Can you hear me?
yes, sorry, I don't know. Technical difficulties.
Yeah,
Maybe it means we've
absolutely.
spoken too much. We're over time.
No, that's completely fine. But thank you so much for this very insightful session. I think everybody has gained so much out of it. You've explained the complete process of how these SaaS solutions work and how important they are for any organization, whether small, medium, large. How does an organization go about implementing it? The kind of difficulties or the challenges that would come in place when you are going towards it, and how one can maneuver themselves to overcome these challenges and implement these solutions in the right and effective manner. So first of all, thank you so much for all of these insights, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Farida. It was a very pleasurable conversation. And
Same here.
yeah, I think we've touched upon lots of points that I believe should help consideration within any organization. So, yeah, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And for everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us on this very insightful episode of the Professionals Pulse. We hope you gained valuable strategies to accelerate growth with strategic process management and the correct and the right kind of SaaS solutions. Again, a very big thank you to Michelle for sharing her expertise with us today. So stay tuned for more engaging conversations in our upcoming episodes, and don't forget to follow us for all the updates. Until next time, let's keep innovating and pushing boundaries. See you
Exactly.
soon. Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day, everyone.